Righto, this is a what's in my pack / review / debrief for the Grampians Peaks Trail end to end I did back at the end of April. The Grampians is a national park up north of Melbourne. It's about 3 hours northwest. It's fundamentally a series of rocky ridges that runs north-south. Pretty spectacular. It's old seabed, so it's all sandstone that's been pushed up by plate tectonics, just pushed up. Big, huge slabs of sandstone that have all been tilted out to the west. So the western faces are just gentle faces that go from about 1,000 metres down to a couple of 100 metres. And the eastern faces are all just these big ass drop-offs, bluffs. Very spectacular, well worth a visit. The Grampians Peaks Trail finds its way just down the spine of those ridges from the very top to the very bottom. It's about 160 kilometres, 13 days, 12 nights. And not much more to say, we'll get in. This is the pack, this is the very setup that I took. I took the Kathmandu X-Pac Vardo. It's a 70 litre pack. I tossed up for a while whether to take the Osprey, but this one won out. Various reasons. This is the one I took. Got my trusty Crocs camp shoes here. They are, never leave home without them. They are light as hell. They're just the cheap Aldi ones. Really light, indestructible. The dog's been chewing on them, still in one piece. They're light, and you can just clip them on and put them on when you get to camp. Easy on your feet, rather than plonking around in jangles and standing on shit in bare feet. Pack weight was about 17 kilos flat, I think, exactly. That's with four or 5 days food and 2.5 litres of water. So the base weight was substantially less. Yeah. Let's just dive in, I guess. Top of pack, front of pack. Yeah, we'll just go to the main pack, yeah. Alright, so top of your pack should always be, depending on the day, either a jumper or rain gear. You need to get to your shells fast if the sky comes down on you. So chuck them on the top. You'll never regret it. So I'm carrying the Kathmandu, their heaviest shell that they did. Now my general thoughts on Kathmandu gear is that it's heavy and overpriced, but the good thing about them is they have 70% off sales a couple of times a year, so at the end of the day you're just carrying a little bit more weight. I really like this shell. I got it about 8 years ago. It's never done me wrong. I re-waterproofed it about, it was actually just before this trip, but other than that it's really thick. It's the heaviest one they do, and I got it in a sale, so it was like a couple of $100. Can't go wrong for that. Now it's not Arcteryx, top of the line Arcteryx shell will still run you $600 or $700, and they'll weigh less than half of that. But I like the heaviness of this. I often go off trail into the spiky shit, and yeah, well, I just don't know how an Arcteryx, those light ones, would go, and I'd be pretty pissed if I ripped an expensive shell. So that's what I go for. I just carry that, and when I replace it, I'll probably go Arcteryx. I don't know. We'll see what's on the thing. Now on the tail of that, I've got my Rainpants somewhere here. Speaking of easy to get out, these are the Arcteryx Zeta SL. They are incredibly light. Really good. Love them to bits, quite frankly. So they've got the 3/4 length zip down the side, waterproof zips. They don't have pockets because it's a weight saving thing. They're only a couple of 100 grams from memory, or less. I don't actually know off the top of my head. But you can walk in them, they breathe really well, you can walk in them all day, and I did on this trip for 3 days at a time in the rain, and you don't get any crotch swamp. You don't get, it's no sweat, you don't cook in your own juices. They're fantastic. Righto, so next up we have cook system. This is just the MacPac pot. I chose to leave the Trangia at home because for a trail of 13-14 days you're starting to carry a lot of fuel. So in this I've just got my MSR Pocket Rocket 2, which is about what, 73 grams or something from memory. Fantastic little burner, toe to toe with the jet boils. Quite honestly, a cooker is a cooker, as long as it doesn't weigh too much and as long as it works for you. That puts out a lot of heat, so I really like it. Lighter, and I was carrying a 200 gram gas canister because originally this was supposed to be the two of us going on this hike, but Ling hurt her back about 2 weeks before we left, so I ended up doing it solo. And that's just that's a really good little pot, that one. I ate out of it, cooked in it. It's light as hell. It's got the heat exchanger on the bottom, so to boil a litre of water with that in the wind, you're looking at about 5-6 minutes. And yeah, you can't go wrong, man, quite honestly. That was my cooking gear. Put that over there. What comes next? Spare collapsible water bottle, litre bottle, floating around just in case he needs a top up. Now, in terms of water, I carry 2.5 litres for a day, and in the Grampians that was just enough in April, so you're going to need to carry more if you're in summer. We were there over January. We did the 3-day loop, and we ran out of water we were carrying. I was carrying 2.5, and Lang was carrying nearly 3, I think, and we ran out of water doing Mount Rosier. So you can use a lot when it's hot, because it's all just big open rocky faces in the sun, and you just cook. Alright, what I call on the go gear, just stuff, knife, cordage, what else is in there? Light sticks, just stuff, right? Again, if you're going for weight saving, I'll probably leave that behind, or half of that. Tent. I carried the copper Spur HV UL3, it's a 3-person tent. We got the 3-person over the 2-person because I was upgrading from my little tunnel tent, which gets a bit cramped with 2 people in wet weather. You've got to leave your gear in the vestibule and there's just no room for anything. So we kind of went for the UL3, which is, yeah, it was described on the trail by somebody who looked in it as a palace, that huge. It's incredibly light. The trail weight was 1.7 kgs. For the 2-person you're looking at only about 1.5. You'd have to look up the specs. The reason I picked this tent, it's got the fly first pitch. So I break everything out from the bag, so you can just carry it in the bag if you want, but I'll break out the whole thing so I can get into my bag. If it's raining, I can just get into my bag, get the poles out, get the ground sheet out, set it up, throw the fly over top of it, and you're all dry. Just chuck everything underneath there, towel down, and then you can put the tent up at your leisure, get your gear out at your leather, and there's just no fuss, no dry, no getting wet. You've only got to put up a tent underneath the tarp once or twice in the rain to decide that it's not really the sort of game you want to be playing. And further to that, you know, if you're not even going to that extent and you're crawling around under the fly, you put the fly down and you put the tent up underneath the fly, it's just a pain in the ass. After doing that a few times, the next tent you buy, you'll get a fly first pitch. Now the flip side of that, I guess, is weather. If you're anticipating wind, you know, decent weather, heavy weather, wind and heavy rain, then you probably want to take something like a tunnel tent, something a bit more weatherproof. But quite frankly, it's not that often I find myself out in that sort of weather. So yeah, copper spur all the way. That's a great tent. Well, so we've set up camp and we've got everything ready. Right to the food. I carried 5 days food at the most. Most of it was 4 days at the time. The Peaks Trail was divided into 3 sections. On the 4th day you get to Hall's Gap. And on the about the 5th day, I think it is, you cross Jimmy Creek Road. So I put in a food drop at Jimmy Creek Road and I left my car at Hall's Gap with 4 or 5 days of food in it. So I just carried for dinners. I carried 2 of these. It's just the larger backcountry cuisine meals. They're fantastic. They're just the perfect size for me, quite honestly. They're pretty decent meal and got a lot of calories, but you know, if you're hiking all day and you're a little bit cold, then there's nothing better than that. You just boil the water and chuck it in. For the alternate days, I made up my own mix. So what I do is I buy this stuff, the backcountry freeze-dried mince. That's like $8, and it's 5 serves of freeze-dried mince, funnily enough. And I just chuck that in, 1 serve of that, with equivalent. We just dehydrate some rice and dehydrate some veggies. So it's just minced veggies and rice, nice and light, and chuck in some instant noodle flavouring from a sachet, and just cook it up, and it's beauty. And between the 2 of us, one of these and one of these is perfect amount of calories for us for the next day. So for me on a solo trip, I'll do that every second day. I'll do one of these every second day, and I'll do one of these on the alternate days. And I'll generally carry an extra 1 or 2 just in case I'm a bit hungrier. But that's, you know, standard fare, standard practice. Dinner, breakfast, somewhere in here. This is probably the heaviest individual thing I have in the pack because it kind of weighs a bit. But so I just do a scoop of oats, a scoop of protein powder, dried apricots, sultanas, macadamia nuts, chia seeds. Chuck it in a bag individually. So that's 1 serve. That's my breakfast. Throw in a few hundred mils of water. And just mush it all up. Let it sit while I pack the tent up. And then you'll just eat it out of the bag with a spoon. No wash up, no nothing, don't need to muck around. Chuck that in your little rubbish bag, and after about 5 days in the sun, they start to really stink. That is what it is, part of hiking. Alternatively, you can chuck it in your pot or your cup, stir it up and wash it all out if you don't feel like carrying rubbish. You're still going to carry the bag, but at least it's dry. Sleep system. I carried a few pieces of new gear on this hike. One of them was a sleeping bag that I got. So I've just replaced my, what is it? Domex Pack Light. It's I've had it for about 20 years. It's a synthetic bag. I love it to bits, but my last trip to Feathertop I got a bit cold. So in this case, I thought, time to get a new bag. So I went for a down bag. This is, quite frankly, the best stick bag on the market. Just going to adjust that down a little. And we're going to go back to the sleeps. Righto, so tent's up, we've had dinner. There's not much left to do but go to bed, really. I was walking about 6-8 hours a day. The average speed through the Grampians peaks is about 2 kilometres an hour, so you might look at the days and they might look short, but it can take quite a bit of time to cover the trail. And if you go off trail, be prepared to spend a lot of time. Proper off trail there, you're looking at hours per kilometre, doing things like traversing the ridge lines and stuff. So it can be very slow, so be prepared to spend a bit of time on your feet. So sleep system, this is actually a new sleeping bag that I bought. It's the Zeta Summit Spark SP3. Now I double bag everything, clothes and sleep gear, dry bag and plastic bag, plus the packing bag inside. You only got to fall in the river once or twice, or just have a bad day and get wet and get your gear wet. That sucks. So I learned early on, double bag doesn't weigh much and just save your ass. Quite frankly, there's nothing worse than a wet sleeping bag. This packs down really small. This sleeping bag is one of the best. 600 grams, super light, super small, and it's super warm. So yeah, she's a good bag. I jumped in it. I bought it at summer, about January I think it was. It was kind of a hot day when I got it. And of course, when you first unpack it, you're like, oh, great, let's try it out. I jumped inside of it and just started sweating immediately. I was in shorts and t-shirt, and I couldn't get out of it fast enough. It was warm, perfectly warm, so end of April, starting to get a bit cold. It was single-digit temperatures at night. I wasn't cold, I wasn't super warm, but there were times like Mount Difficult where I actually had clouds blowing through the tent. The visibility was about 2 meters, and I think I turned the torch on about 2 o'clock in the morning, and there were literally clouds blowing through the tent. I wasn't warm, wasn't cold, just right. So yeah, that's a great sleeping bag. Okay, next up we have, look at that, a pillow. That's the Zeta Summit Aeros Ultralight. It's really good actually. I bought it on a whim, tried it out. I normally just use a jumper. That was pretty good actually. I keep using it. It's better than a jumper. One less than there. That's just the Zeta Summit self-inflating mat, and the regular green one. If you're looking for extra warmth, I'd be looking at probably a thicker mat. But in terms of weight and packing down small, that packs down, as you can see, perfectly acceptable size. It's only a few hundred grams. Can't go wrong with that either. That's my choice. Water. So that brings us to water. I carry 2.5 litres in a camelback, just part of the kit. What I do is I actually have this on a clip, fast release. I made that up, and I opportunistically fill with my filter. So I use a Katadyn Hiker Pro, and I just, if I come across a stream, or in the Grampians there's serviced water tanks at all the road crossings, just clip in, fill up, count 37 pumps, and you've got yourself a litre of water. So you can actually fill up without even unpacking too much. This usually floats around my pack, not far from the top of the pack, so I can come across a stream, running river, or a water tank, like I said, just top her up. So I carried 2.5 litres of water, and that was sufficient. I would recommend, if you've got a couple on a hot day or something, then you're going to need a lot more water than that. Yeah, that's what it is. Alright, bottom of the pack, clothes. Now that's not the actual clothes I took, but it's about the right size. Again, double bagged in a dry bag. I carry socks. So what do I take? 3 pairs of socks, 3 pairs of gruts. Wash them in the rivers as you come across them, which there aren't very many, so I use a water tank. I individually bagged everything inside of it. Carried polyprop thermals full set to sleep in, and a merino thermals to wear during the day. And that's the main body of the pack. In the front of the pack is the glue on. I did carry toilet paper because you never know when you need to go. And that's my hygiene pack, what do they call it? Toiletries, that's the word I was looking for. Just basic toothbrush, mirror, hand sanitizer, soap. Now I carried the Zeta Summit, those lightweight soap flakes, just as an experiment. They actually work really well. They're really light, it's really handy, but as I learned, it's only good up until about the point you leave it out overnight in the rain. Whereupon it went from several hundred little soap flakes, 50 soap flakes, to one big bar of soap. But it works really well. They're actually really good, a couple of bucks, and they're handy as hell. Better than carrying a wet bar of soap around, or then having to carry several things, like trying to... Body wash doesn't work very well as a detergent when you're trying to wash fat out of your cooking pot. Alright, topper pack. Standard fare for me. Sun hat. Pack cover when it starts to rain. Lunch. So lunch I just did these sachets of tuna and beans. They're a little heavy. And to be honest, I didn't really think it was a good lunch. Don't get me wrong, it's an excellent lunch, but it just didn't sit well in my guts for the rest of the afternoon. And then I started farting because all the beans and the protein, they really, I was thinking about that time that I could have done better. Energy bar, crank bar, mid-morning, pick me up. Ultralight and a cup. Spoon, just a plastic Zeta Summit spoon, a couple of bucks. First aid kit, I don't carry a lot. Blister stuff, most of this is a couple of bandages for a snake bite. And then enough to do blisters, so sticking plasters and some micropore tape, plus an emergency foil blanket. This was a new thing I took. Really, really cool actually, for washing up. So what's a Zeta Summit kitchen sink, and it's kind of fiddly to get out, fiddly to put back in again, but it's basically a bucket and kind of handy. You wash your feet after dinner and before you go to bed, because you've got to look after your feet when you're on a longer hike. So yeah, this was a fantastic little thing. That was well worth taking. The only thing I didn't really like was it didn't dry out that fast, so I often had to put it back in my pack wet. Hairnet for flies, I didn't use that at all. And compass, just a bulk standard compass. Don't know why it's in a plastic bag. Probably because I got sharp edges on it and don't want to cut the inside of my bag up. Right, and the other last thing is PLB. Don't leave home without that if you're going on a trip by yourself. This is the InReach Explorer Plus. I really love it. It's a bit bigger and heavier than the Mini, but I took it because it's standalone. You got a screen, you can do GPS on it if you want. I'm a map and compass guy, but it's always nice to have GPS if you really need to fall back on it. One example of that was I actually had it out and turned on, and I clicked up here. Okay, that was unexpected. Had it up here for Mount Rosier. Yeah, so when I did Mount Rosier, it was complete whiteout conditions, about 30-40 metre visibility. So I actually had this out and turned on and clipped up here, just in case I want to have a GPS map to look at never got to that. Didn't lose the trail that day. And yeah, all good, all good. That's Explorer Plus. And that's the pack. Random camp towel. I just use a microfiber towel. You can just wring them out when they get wet. You wring them out and keep going. Fantastic. And sewed a Chanel label on it just as a joke, and that's all good. The other thing I took was, this was the first hike I've done with walking poles, and honestly I wouldn't have made it without them. It was pretty brutal trail in some of the places, and these took an exceptional beating over Mount Difficult. They were brand new when I left, and you can see here that they got the literal shit beaten out of them, and most of that was on Mount Difficult actually, amusingly enough. These are the Salomon Ultra Sense, I think they're called. There's probably a label on it. Yeah, Sense Ultra. They're super light carbon fibre. Can't go wrong. Fantastic. Won't leave home without these now. What else, Doggo? What do you reckon? Yeah, we got Doggo in the corner. That's my gear. That's all my gear. Got one very unimpressed Kelpie looking there. She doesn't get to come along, so she doesn't like when I start playing with hiking gear. That's about it. We'll see how that turns out. What are you doing? What are you doing, Doggo? Yeah, so the last thing I had was maps. So what I do, I've seen a lot of people doing a lot of different things with maps. One person in the Grampians had the full 50,000 map like that had been laminated, and they were trying to fold it up and unfold it every couple of hours when they're looking at the maps. What I do is probably, I thought it was standard, but I've never actually met other people doing it. I just photocopy my maps onto A3, fold them up, stick them in a plastic bag with the day's hike. So there's day 3 from Mount Difficult to Werdug, down there past the lake. And just folds up, stick it in your knee pocket, zip her up, and she's accessible, waterproof, weatherproof, and yeah, it just self-destructs after a day or two, so you don't want too big a map, but it's photocopied, so get home and chuck it out. And it also means you're only carrying what you need, because maps are actually kind of heavy in the end. Grams make kilograms. So there you go, that's our what's in my pack. 17 kilograms. It was about 18.5 kilograms on the heaviest day going up Mount Difficult because I had to carry extra water. But yeah, that's my gear. That's the choices I took. I wouldn't change any of it. It was it all works exceptionally well. Yeah.